Well, good morning, everybody. Jeff Slakey and Spencer Hughes on the Daybreak Show as it's time for us to get the sheriff sit down from our community credit union. Great partners there with that. Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury. Hello.
Good morning.
We are moving into amazing October, and we've got October coming up right around the corner. And over the last couple of months, we have noticed less cars on the roadway, although they're starting to pick up a little bit. And now as we move into the darker mornings, people need to kind of remember that stuff. It's been a while.
Yeah, I think this week is going to be a real time for people to think about what's happening. It sounds like we're going to start getting the big rain coming in this week on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It hasn't been raining for quite some time, or heavy rain. You know, it's when the time for the windshield wipers that people all of a sudden realize that they've got the streaks in them and maybe new wiper blades are in need. The other thing is like tire pressures and things on cars. As it gets cooler out, those things can change, especially when the temperature really drops for a long time. A lot of those safety issues. And this year, and I talked about this a little bit before, I don't know that I have not looked at the stats to be absolutely perfect, but it seems to me like this year we've had quite a few collisions, more than we've had in the past. And we'll have to pull those and look. But many of those have to do with just people going too fast. And as the darkness starts to hit, it's darker in the mornings, it's darker at night. Headlights and taillights need to be checked. All those safety things. And I think the motto is just slow down a little bit. It just seems like after everybody was stopped at home for a long time, the highways seem to be more open. People seem to start driving fast, and now you've got groups of cars in there, and people are really getting in tight behind the other person on the roadways, following too close. And just those general things of turn on your turn signal and let it click a few times. Don't just hit the turn signal and change lanes at the same time. But that little bit of warning going into the intersection, give people a little bit of time. Check the intersection. Another one that just is a tough one. I love the roundabouts and things, but you get into some of those, you got to be paying attention.
Yeah.
And I look up here at a couple of our intersections where it's the who goes first person. And they're not paying attention when they come up there. And if you just kind of look as you approach the intersection, you can kind of tell which cars have pulled up in the order you should go in. But sometimes people aren't looking, and then everybody decides to go at once.
The vehicle maintenance is a big thing. I mean, just a side note, with less driving, one of our cars, we hardly ever have started it over the last couple of months, and we've had to jump the battery a few different times just because you're not driving it.
And tires really, I mean, the temperature hasn't quite dropped enough. It takes quite a bit of a drop for a while. But if you haven't checked the tire pressure in your car, it makes a huge difference when we go out and do drive training. It's a huge difference on a vehicle, how it handles with the correct amount of air in it that the manufacturer recommends. If you start getting especially low on those tire pressures or overly high on the tire pressure, it can really throw the handling and the braking of the vehicle off. They're set up with the modern cars especially, are set up with the anti-lock braking systems to be at the tire pressure that the manufacturer recommends. That's where they're tested at. And if you go outside of that too far on either side, you can really throw off the vehicle handling.
How much do drivers need to add to the time for braking or paying attention when it comes to these, not only the heavy rain event we're going to get later this week, 1.5 inches is a lot of rain, but even that first hour after it rains, where you were talking about the slickness of the cement.
Well, as you know, the oils can kind of sit on the roads, and if it hasn't rained for a long time, it seems that they get a little bit slicker, and you just got to be thinking the whole time, because you can't always see that. It's kind of like black ice.
Yeah.
You come into an intersection and you start to slow down. The troughs are full of water, and if it's built up, there's another one that we don't have so much here. But when you get over in the I-5 area, it used to be especially south of the brewery in Olympia there. The troughs in the I-5, they fill up with water, and you go along and you hit those, and your car almost, really wants to pull from side to side. And they try to keep those, eliminated, and the road surface is good. But when you're not used to hitting those and it throws a car a little bit, people get a little bit excited behind the wheel.
Yeah. Well, I know coming south 101 towards Olympia, just past the Little Creek as you're going up the hill.
Yes.
There's some ruts in the road there. Plus, you're gassing it a little to get up the hill.
Yeah.
And you can get kind of squirrely.
You can almost tell when you're driving your car, depending on the width of your car and where the ruts are. It's almost like riding on a railroad track. It'll almost guide you. It'll pull you back and forth. And if your car is a little bit narrower or something, it pulls from lane to lane or pulls from trough to trough.
Is there anything else as you move into the fall that you'd like to remind folks? Or do we still get people out in the water on boats in October and November? Or,
I think this year we're running a little bit later because the weather's been so nice, you know, and it's just a reminder that, the winds are going to start to pick up too. And in small craft, when you get out not very far, I mean, the lake probably not as bad unless it's a huge lake, but you get out on the saltwater somewhere, and that wind starts to come up, those conditions change really, really fast. And it's another thing to be aware of. I think with people not necessarily being back in school, I don't know how many people are still out running around or if everybody's at home trying to get their kids through their computer class. But there's just a whole bunch of different factors this year. I read the other day, a person posted they can't wait for 2020 to end. It can't end fast enough. It's just been an odd year for so many different things. And hopefully we just move forward safely.
Last week was Choice High School's graduation.
Yes.
I mean, it's a little later, obviously, than it normally has been, but I was over there talking to Principal Anderson, and it's still an important closure milestone.
Oh, sure it is. Yeah, I have. My wife actually teaches there.
Yeah.
So yes, it is. I've been to a few of those graduations, and it's a tough go sometimes when it's a different time of the year, I think. But it is a tremendous milestone, a tremendous accomplishment for to finish that. And that's really proud of all the kids in the district that are struggling through and in going into this next year. I think it's going to take a lot of patience on both the part of the students and the teachers and the parents as well, because it seems like there's a pretty tough struggle.
Yeah.
I used to teach school. And I would be fine.
I mean, how do you think you'd do with all these Zoom classes?
Not good. Not good. I just that wouldn't work for me. It's so difficult not to be in the classroom doing things. But I'm not savvy enough to set all that stuff up on the computers. And a couple of people in our office, one of our guys, his wife's a teacher, and she teaches first grade. And I'm thinking, how do you do first grade anyway? But I've done it before, but how do you do that on a computer with all these different little faces on the screens and all this stuff going on? That's going to be a tough go for them.
Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury during the Sheriff Sit Down, presented by our Community Credit Union. Thank you.
Thank you.